Welcome to the Right Call podcast. How are you doing today, Samar?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Elliot?
I'm fucking great. So we decided to give Samar a try here. You know, I've been watching some of your content for quite a while. It's been popping up on my feed. You're keeping Canadian politicians to account. You're bringing the heat to them.
Yeah, absolutely. If you see what they've been doing just with the Canadian dollar, it's absolutely disgusting. And not a lot of people really talk about it in Canada. It happens a lot in the United States. You have people like Peter Schiff and different economists weighing in. In Canada, not so much. And Tiff Macklem has done such a poor job managing the Bank of Canada for the past decade or so that, you know, it really invigorates me to talk about this stuff.
That's the one thing I can't stand. How the loonie right now, the Canadian dollar, is getting hammered. You know,
it was 69 cents at some point. It was
low now. It was 68. I think it went down to 68 at one point. You know,
absolutely terrible.
And people don't realize the freaking the damage it does. Now, granted, on the export side of things, amazing. People love it when the loonie, when the Canadian dollar is low. But you know, for me, I'm a traveler. I hate being in Canada. So I travel all over the world, and like you get smacked. You know, well, I was in Europe. I was in Portugal while the loonie was at 68 cents against the USD, but it was doing shit against the euro as well. And holy fuck, I've never felt so poor in my life.
Well, to compound that effect, if manufacturing is poor in our country, you know, we're not a big manufacturing hub. We're not manufacturing the iPhones, the cars. We're importing a lot of that stuff. And so the effect that it has on the Canadian worker, the average Canadian person, just earning the average salary, it just destroys their purchasing power.
Absolutely.
You know, having to buy an iPhone that's now $600 more expensive because Justin Trudeau just destroyed the Canadian dollar by printing it into oblivion. It's egregious.
Of course. And, you know, and the funny thing too, and I love seeing this, right now we have the elbows up crowd, right? It's like, let's stick it to the Americans. We don't fucking care about them. We're not going to visit the US and we're going to stay in Canada. That one.
The elbows up crowd.
Like a little duck. But here's the issue though. I think they're sticking, and it's true, like Canadian tourism to the US is at nearly an all-time low, right? But I think people are hiding behind the righteousness of like, oh, we're doing this to protect Canada and whatnot. I think it's just because they're too poor to go to the US now with the loonie being so shit. You know, think about it.
It's a bit of both.
No, but I mean, you know, now your vacation is like 35% more expensive.
Absolutely.
I miss the days of parity, right? When the US.
Stephen Harper days.
The Stephen Harper. It feels like it was so long ago. And, you know, we spoke about this on the show so many times before. But I remember in 2015 when Trudeau got elected, I remember waking up that morning before going to the office. And I thought to myself, I'm like, this is going to be a bad next little while. And never in my wildest, shittiest nightmare could I have imagined how bad things slid in Canada. It got considerably worse than what I expected.
Absolutely.
You know, and right now it keeps going and keeps going. And we're entering, honestly, some form of like dystopian future now because, you know, obviously we had the Rona lockdowns for a little while, and look, it feels like it's a different lifestyle or lifetime ago. But, you know, we're getting a little bit of a sense of something similar coming back right now, all right? So for those who don't know, we are in a pretty dry period. It's funny because today actually rained in Canada like the first time in like 3 weeks. Personally, love the fact that it's dry as hell and hot. But you have a province in Nova Scotia that started enacting effectively what we can describe as climate lockdowns, right? There are a ban on going in the woods. You are not allowed to walk, hike, drive, fish, or even just be present in the woods.
In Canada. The place where we have the most of it.
I mean, right. So what the fuck is going on? Like, when does safety become authoritarianism?
You know, when I followed this story, the way it made me feel, it's just lazy politics by lazy politicians. You know, it's the same thing during the Rona lockdowns. You know, maybe, I don't know if it's some dystopian, nightmarish, futurist hellhole thing. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I try to see things from a more realistic perspective, and I just think it's lazy politicians enacting lazy policies rather, and it just has this effect that they didn't intend, unintended consequences on the populace. So
there's so many of that. And for those who don't know, so Prime Minister Tim Houston declared a 2-month ban on hiking, driving, fishing in the woods due to dry conditions and fire risk in the province. Now, here's where it gets crazy. You know, during the Rona lockdowns, if you were caught outside of your house during curfew, it was a ridiculous fine. I think it was like $5,000, right? It's like some ridiculously steep fine. Well, whoever's caught in the woods right now during this wood ban is subjected to a $25,000 fine. I mean, get this right, $25,000
It's mind-blowing. Absolutely absurd.
for being in nature, for being on public land, may I add. And I mean, this obviously goes against the Charters of Rights and Freedom.
Absolutely.
But nobody's being held to account. We're allowing it. And I'm reading comments of people saying, yeah, but you know what? If it only saves one life, you don't understand the risk. I'm like, the rest of the fucking country is dry as hell as well. And I mean, last I checked, I'm not about to get arrested if I walk in the woods over there. So why do we have to continuously do these things? I mean, I think personally, it distracts from poor forest management, right? Because governments are responsible for forest management. You know, people don't realize this, but if you let the underwoods and all the dead organic matter just collect, it becomes a fire risk over time. And forest management is supposed to come and clean these things up to prevent forest fires. And obviously, government has a hard time managing anything correctly, and they distract it and blame obviously climate change. So this right now, the woods are based on the fires are because of climate change apparently, and let's lock people down and give them $25,000 fines.
It's just the government. They don't want to innovate. You know, in this society, we now have so much technology with like thermal, satellites, drones. There are so many things that can be done to track forest fires and try to, you know, get the country together, get certain groups of people together, whether it's municipalities or at the federal level. It would probably be a municipal thing, but if they set up a municipal thing where, okay, we have these drones going out just during the dry season, we have these drones with satellite thermal verification, and they can potentially they can potentially innovate in some direction, but they don't.
I mean, that's a great point. By the way, that level of technology definitely exists. Like, for example, it's completely a different point, but wherever the US president goes, there's always, before he gets there, a sweep of the area for biological, nuclear, and radioactive matter. And they use drones for that. And they have very precise sensors that can detect if there is a change in like background radiation, aka would indicate that there might be a nuclear device present. You're going to tell me we can't do that for thermal or for dryness, for humidity levels in forests?
In 2025,
I'm
with
sure.
all the technology we
Absolutely.
have, could be totally done, but government just does not innovate. You need the private sector to come in, bring technology forward, and then maybe the government will catch on.
But did you see also there was this
that.
man named Jeff Evely, all right, who decided to challenge the entire, hiking ban, if you wish. And he submitted something to the courts, and the courts rejected it because they said that he had no standing on the matter. So he's like, fine, I got no standing. He went into the woods. He called forest management or, the conservation officers. He went into the woods specifically to receive a fine. But here's the funny thing. So he was fined $25,000.
Okay.
Actually, that's a lie. He was fined $28,872 because,
with fees and stuff.
well, the most Canadian thing ever would be to get fined 25 grand and still receive taxes on top of it, right?
Absolutely.
There's something apparently called a victims fund. So he's paying upwards of $3,000 to the victims fund. Yeah. Anyways,
Shocking.
and just to make matters worse, now it's not just Nova Scotia anymore. New Brunswick is also joining the fray and has also started their own sort of climate change lockdowns, exposing people again to some ridiculously high fine. Let's hope it doesn't get to Quebec, but at one point it's like
that's stressful.
It is, man. It is. But
thought we would have learned by now. Freedom Convoy 2.0, let's go.
Freedom Convoy. It's funny because I actually met one of the organizers of the Freedom Convoy. I was on Patrick King. He was arrested, spent time in jail. Actually, he was charged with mischief and encouraging mischief and a plethora of charges. And he spent about a year in jail. He was released a few months ago, and he came out and he's like, "Fuck it, I'm starting a show." And he invited me on it. He's a great dude. Love him. He's from Alberta, obviously, but he just moved to Quebec. Don't know why. That's the one thing. I'm like, dude, you're in Alberta. You're like the best province in Canada. You decide to move to Quebec, sure. But yeah, man, Freedom Convoy was something. The stories he was telling me, it's wild. The government, like the amount of setup that was happening over there. But I digress. A little bit more south of the border here in DC. Have you seen how Trump wants to federalize the effectively DC police. What was it called? The police station, the police department, and put it under the guise of the federal government.
So from what I understood, what's going on is that President Trump is using the crime situation in the DC as an excuse to make stricter laws with.
Yeah, pass some stricter laws. Well, I mean, in short, like so people understand, Trump declared a crime emergency in the nation's capital, placing metropolitan police under federal control, and on top of that, deploying the National Guard's troops. So right now, he's looking at deploying 800 National Guardsmen to assist law enforcement. He invoked what's called Section 740 of the DC Home Rule Act for police control. Because, people have to realize DC, the District of Columbia, Washington, DC, I should say, is not a state, right? It's a federal district. And it's actually under the direct control of the federal government. Now, they do delegate or devolve some authority to municipal government. But when they're not doing their job, the federal government is within its right to take control. Now, it hasn't been done, I think, since the Civil War. So it's been a very, very, very long time. And obviously, DC residents, people that live in DC are very much to the left, right? Huge Democrat stronghold. So they're calling it like authoritarianism, right? This is dictatorship, and whatnot. Of course they would. But I pulled out some stats. DC has some of the highest crime rate in all of the US.
Yeah.
And
car thefts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And what I saw, and you know what, at first I wasn't too sure what to think of it, but then I saw this video of the president, actually. He was giving a speech, and I'm going to pull it up right here. On the TV, he was giving a little speech at the White House explaining why he was doing this. And he gave such a fucking clever analogy. And I was just like, you know what, man? It's hard to argue that reasoning. And I want to know what you think of that.
I'd love to see it.
Yeah.
Said, my father always used to tell me, I had a wonderful father, very smart. And he used to say, son, when you walk into a restaurant and you see a dirty front door, don't go in, because if the front door is dirty, the kitchen's dirty also. Same thing with the Capitol. If our Capitol's dirty, our whole country is dirty, and they don't respect us. So it's a very good question, actually.
I mean, fuck, when I heard that, I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe he's got a point.
He's being very direct. And look, his entire platform during the election, during the election cycle, was being tough on crime.
Yep.
Especially carjackings. People are just so liberal with crime because of just soft on crime laws. And this gives Trump eventually an opportunity to say, if he can deliver and actually deliver significant reductions in crime in the next couple of years, this gives him a lot of leverage to say we need to enforce these things nationwide because they work. And especially in cities like New York, Chicago, LA, these cities are riddled with crime and they absolutely need.
But, and this is where I'm a little bit torn. And I'm a huge proponent of the rule of law. And for example, New York City circa when Trump was not growing up, but like up and coming as a real estate developer, right, was riddled with crime. It was infested. It was disgusting. New York City was horrible, right? And then Rudy Giuliani came and became the mayor, and he implemented some very controversial policies that ended up working. It worked. But I honestly, on one side of things, I'm like, good. It had the intended results. The intended results, I should say. But I mean, like the stop and frisk policy, just stopping anyone and frisking them, for me, that's a violation of the Fourth Amendment, right? Yeah. That's not okay. I believe in people's personal and individual freedoms. So I'm a little bit torn with that as well. Now, in DC, what's going on with Trump, that's a different point because he's actually allowed to, the law says he's allowed to take control. But sometimes these measures can be, I'm always going to err on the side of individual freedom. So I'm never going to support even Trump, who I'm a fan of. I like what he does, but I'm always going to be very careful supporting someone who takes too much power. That's not okay. Because
do you find that this is too much power?
Right now, no. Right now, no. Not with the DC thing. And to add insult to injury, and it's hilarious because there's been massive protests in DC because of that. And the funny thing is that the next day, the day after the big protest, there was a man who got shot. Like legit blocks away from what the liberals were protesting, right? And you can't make this shit up. Like, it's just too fucking funny. And what I find also hilarious is the DC police chief. Her name is Pamela Smith. And just so you know, she used to be the former chief equity officer in the police before becoming the chief of the police department.
Okay.
And she was being interviewed by the press, about the whole federal control over the police department. And she was asked this simple question, which I think anyone with a grade 3 level comprehension would understand. Apparently she didn't. I want you to tell me if you understood the question, all right?
What the chain of command is now?
What does that mean?
Well, is it Pam Bondi speaking to the mayor? How does this work?
So the executive order is clear. The president has requested MPD services, and our home rule charter outlines the process. The president designated Attorney General Bondi as his proxy to request services through me.
The reporter asks, are you aware of what the chain of command is now? Right? And she responds, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's
you're the fucking chief of police.
so qualified.
So qualified, right? So anyways, I guess this is the leadership in DC. So perhaps it's going to be good. And I'll finally be able to go visit. Have you ever been to DC, by the way?
I have.
You have?
Lovely.
Was
the
it
White
lovely?
House area?
Yeah?
You should definitely go. It's very historical. It makes you feel like you're part of a big part of civilization.
Did you get mugged?
No.
Were you walking with your guns out?
No. But I'm sure it happens.
Yeah. People. Well, I mean, I had the statistics. I forgot it, and I don't want to like go looking for them right now. But yeah, there's a ridiculous amount of crime over there. Actually, that raises the question. Let's say you were American, right? And you had the right to carry a gun concealed on your person. Would you, or are you like completely against that? Yeah, you would.
Yeah. It just I think self-protection is a personal right.
Mm-hmm.
I think everyone should be to an extent trained. To whether it's martial arts or some form of training, just to like keep your mind sharp.
Yeah.
And keep your
do you do martial
heart
arts?
pure. Yeah, I used to. And
what kind?
I've gone shooting. I did Kyokushin karate.
Oh fuck. Okay.
And I got to orange belt. Yeah.
Nice. So I'm not gonna fuck with you.
No, I'm not that strong.
No, but you said you've gone shooting before.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've gone pew pew shooting.
Yeah, in Florida.
In Florida.
Nashville. Yeah, a couple times.
And
It's
what
a lot
guns
of
did
fun.
you shoot? Do you know? Do you remember?
Yeah, an MP5. I shot a couple of revolvers, a couple of pistols. Yeah,
And now the question is, why don't you have any guns here in Canada?
because
You gotta go get your license, man. Go get your license. The
Okay.
more of us gun owners, the better. Because it's true that under the last government, they've banned like fucking 5,000 guns. One day in 2020, I woke up to the news that my AR-15 was now banned, right? And this is what blows my mind, by the way, okay? For me, this is a private property rights issue. See, to get guns in Canada, it's not like in the US. We don't have a Second Amendment right, right? It's not a constitutionally protected right. It is a privilege. As a matter of fact, it's worse than a privilege. In the Criminal Code of Canada, gun ownership is a crime to begin with, by default. However, if you have a proper licensing, you are exempt from the crime. That's basically what it is. But the default mode is always a crime. Now, you need a basic license for long rifles, right? Your grandfather's hunting rifle kind of thing, right? Then if you want to have a pistol or like an AR-15, one of those mean fucking black guns, you need a second level of license. It's more courses, more background checks, more regulations and red tape. There's police interviews, there's references. If you've ever been hospitalized with mental health issue, that's a no. If you've had any kind of like police interaction before, it's a no. Like they're very strict about it. You also have to sign away some of your chartered rights. For example, I'm a gun owner, and yet police are allowed to show up within 24-hour notice to examine my property to make sure my guns are safely stored.
Really?
So I waived away one of my rights because normally cops without a warrant, they can't enter your dwelling, right? That is one of the tenets of a free society. Well, I waived that shit away to be able to own firearms. So, but the thing is, the more of us there is, the more voice we can, project and hopefully push for some reasonable laws, because it's gone to a point right now, which, you mentioned earlier, a lot of knee-jerk reaction, lots of knee-jerk reactions. And oftentimes that's what I find with governments is that they'll pass laws that just feel good. It makes like granny, like fucking grandmama Ginette feel a little bit better. but they don't really accomplish anything in practice.
It's just
right?
for optics.
Yeah, it's just for optics. Like one I love to use, magazines. So that's where you put your rounds, right? The magazines in Canada are limited to 5 rounds, 5 bullets. The idea is like it's going to prevent mass casualty events, right? Okay, yes, on paper that makes a little bit of sense. But in actuality, I mean, if someone's hell-bent on committing a mass atrocity, do you really fucking think they're going to be like, oh, well, I'm going to use a legal magazine with a legal gun because I don't want to end up 3 years in jail with an illegal magazine? No, dude, you're about to commit mass freaking carnage. The last thing you worry about is breaking a magazine law. It's just knee-jerk feel-good reactions that make no difference in real life, you know. But I agree with you. Licensing, that's good. Background checks, I agree. I'm not a proponent for like give fucking guns to everyone. Nah, I don't trust people that much.
Yeah, I feel that way as well.
The way I look people driving,
I feel like they're a little too lax on the guns. I understand how important the NRA is and Second Amendment and
for sure.
all that stuff, but you know.
Yeah. But it's also, you know, you have to understand the way the U.S. is created. It's a country of rebels. It's a country of, you know,
freedom.
Well, it's all about freedom. And, you know, there's only one amendment I know by heart, and it's that one, the Second Amendment. And it says that a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And the idea behind it was just that, like, you know, we had this tyrannical king that was trying to oppress us. And the only way we managed to stay free was to fight back. And I guess they wanted to enshrine that forevermore. And they're, you know, oftentimes the dictators, the first thing they do is they take away guns, right, Eric? Like in China. Yeah, they do.
Or in Manitoba and New Brunswick, apparently.
Yeah, but yeah, fuck, I know. But moving on from that, let's go back home here, okay? And speaking of home, let's go home.
Yeah.
It's finally happening. I feel like the moment that us millennials have been waiting for all this time is here. There's a housing crash happening right now. There's a housing market correction. A housing market correction happening as we speak. Now, the real question will be, will Canada's economy survive a housing bust?
I highly doubt it. Just look at youth unemployment. Youth unemployment is a complete disaster right now. If we don't have youth employment, we don't really have a future. If young people are not learning the skills they need to work, if young people are not learning the skills they need to progress in life and having the opportunities to, you know, save up some money, move out, get an apartment, go to school, get your diploma, get into the career you want, or start a business. If young people don't have that opportunity, they have no hope. When they have no hope, they have no freedom. They're not living in a free society. They're living in a dystopia fundamentally. And if this continues, if we don't address the core issues of our economy, if we don't start balancing the budget, if we don't start paying down our debt, if we don't shrink the size of government, if we don't work with the Americans, like I am so tired personally of this vitriol we have with the Americans when we do most of our trade. Most of Canada's exports go to the US. Canada imports so much from the United States. It's like 76%. Let me just
take your
get the
time,
number down here. It's 75.9% of Canada's exports go straight to the United States. When they were talking about, we're going to find these new trade partners, Mark Carney's going to Europe, he's meeting the King of England, or he's meeting, you know, everybody. The first person he should have been going to was Donald Trump, because 76% of our business is potentially in jeopardy. And if he's not, same thing with Pierre Poilievre, and I am a big Pierre Poilievre supporter, but I think during the election cycle, he should have worked with Trump, said, I'm going to go meet Trump to finalize a deal here. It's like a soft deal. Like it's not it's like, if you get elected, I agree with this deal. What do they call it?
I know
it's
exactly.
Like a tender offer, but not really.
No. It's oh my God. It's like a memorandum of understanding. That's such a thing, right? A memorandum of understanding, a memorandum of principle. It's like a letter of intent in business.
Essentially, they could have closed a tentative deal where it's like, okay, I agree that we should lower these tariffs. We should, you know, open up some American industries in Canada, which we would do well too, because it would lower our prices. And we should be working with the United States hand in hand. And Mark Carney had an opportunity to go meet the president and say, listen, we do 75% of our trade is with you. And if these tariffs are affecting this amount of trade, it is devastating to our country. What are your concerns? President Trump. What is it that you need? And what is it that we can do to help you do that?
Yeah.
And Pierre Poilievre did kind of have that during the election cycle, where he said, for example, the data centers because we have a colder climate, so we could have a lot of data centers. With AI, Google, Meta, all these companies would invest in Canadian data centers where we have the advantage of cool climate to cool the servers.
Yeah.
And Pierre Poilievre was calling that out. Mark Carney's an economist. This guy should be running at Donald Trump trying to get this deal done, but he's not doing nothing.
Well, because if it doesn't give any kickbacks to Brookfield, why would you want to do it? Why would you want to do it? But see, like the election was interesting, right?
Sorry,
like,
can I finish one thing?
Go right
and
ahead.
Instead of securing a deal, as an economist, as the big leader of Brookfield, instead of securing a deal, our tariffs got hiked, and they got hiked.
Yeah.
It's funny to say it. It might even sound ridiculous, but Justin Trudeau got us a better trade deal than Mark Carney.
Holy fuck.
Because Justin Trudeau got us 25% and Mark Carney got us 35%. And just as a result, that is what it looks like, Mr. Prime Minister.
I take it back. Sorry, Trudeau. I take it back. You were indeed the massive negotiator. Please come back.
Yeah.
Look, I know you're busy with Katy Perry right now, but Canada needs you back, Trudeau. It needs you back.
That's the last thing we need. Jesus
What,
Christ.
Katy Perry or Trudeau?
I can't even joke about that. I can't even joke about Justin Trudeau.
Yeah. But the problem though, and this was hard. I think the Liberals are really good. I'll give them that. Okay, I don't think they're good governors. However, they are fucking excellent politicians.
Yeah.
All right, the Liberals are so good at playing the political game, and they hijacked the entire narrative during the election. Their whole proroguing Parliament, they just wanted to really put their chess pieces in place because the election became about Trump, and then Poilievre, no matter what he did, he was damned if you do, damned if you don't.
So you know what? He was also a little late to the party. I gotta say, he had, during that time when Trump came into office, the Liberals were in disarray.
Yeah.
They were completely out of it.
Absolutely.
They were done. It was like Pierre Poilievre majority guaranteed. I was like already dancing before the election. You know what I mean?
You're being a little cocky already, eh?
I was. But look, that's how the political climate was. I never expected such a shift, but obviously with the Donald Trump situation. But there was a period when Donald Trump gets in office, he starts announcing the tariffs, he starts announcing this stuff. The conservatives are in the lead. Yeah. That's a time for Pierre Poilievre to take ownership of that.
Yeah.
And criticize the Liberals even further for saying, look at what you've put us in. Not only is our deficits just rising, not only is our debt at unprecedented levels, but now we have a president coming in who's going to invoke tariffs on us, and you guys are in complete disarray. This is the state of the Liberal Party. The Liberal Party would have tanked even more from that point on.
For sure.
He had an opportunity, but they were playing a little too conservative. They could have taken leadership on that, and I love Pierre Poilievre. I wish he becomes prime minister one day, but he had an opportunity to take that and to just I show his gumption, and
for sure.
Unfortunately, you can't always make the perfect move, but
I feel the conservatives really fumbled it.
Yeah, they did. Absolutely.
It was their election to lose, and they fucking lost it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and that's when they lost it, in my opinion.
It
was that period when they could have taken ownership of it. But
it's like, you know what it is. It's also they got cocky. They saw the polls and they saw how they're like, this is.
We can win.
And then the problem is they got very cautious, but then they allowed the other side to hijack the entire narrative, and then it became about elbows up. It became about I'm better negotiating. Yeah, the duck dance,
the chicken dance.
Oh man, I know. It's really too bad. But going back to the Canadian housing market, right? So Canada's housing market is showing clear signs of a major correction right now, with prices dropping in overheated cities, while mortgage defaults and inventory continue to rise. Economists right now are warning that this could be the biggest pullback since the 1990s. Now, in terms of like what's key drivers of this correction, so right now we have a little bit of an interest rate shock. So mortgages are up in some cases 300% for variable rate holders. And that's something we've been hearing for a while, but it's happening right now.
Years,
I have a buddy of mine. That's the thing. Like he had a variable rate mortgage. I think he was paying like $1,200 a month, like ridiculous. He bought it like 5 years ago, and then it started fucking increasing. Eventually, his payments came close to like $2,500 plus his amortization period. Now his amortization went from 25 years. He was up to like 50 or 60 years, and he kept getting triggered and having to get like paying a higher monthly rate. It's so many Canadians got fucked with that. Another thing too that we're seeing though is a exodus of investors. So there was a lot of speculators for condos, a lot, and pre-build, pre-development condos. Toronto, Vancouver, mostly. There's been a drop of 25% in condo purchases. That is in those markets. That's insane.
They're unaffordable.
Yeah, well, they are now.
Completely unaffordable. Like, just let's just do the math here, okay? If you are lucky enough to earn $100,000 a year, you are within probably in the top, 10-15% of Canadians income earners, somewhere
roughly.
around there.
Yeah.
Rough numbers, just spitballing here. If you earn $100,000 a year, you can't buy a condo in Toronto, Vancouver.
No,
you're far from it. You cannot afford. So it's reserved for like the top 3 to 5% of income earners in Canada, and after a certain point, you're paying so much taxes on every extra dollar of income you earn that it's like, how do you ever get out of this hellhole? And the truth is, you don't. When the defaults are spiking, okay, when the mortgage defaults are spiking, that doesn't just affects the entire economy. That affects the banks. That affects, like, if banks start to default, what is that going to do to our Canadian dollar?
That's a good point. Well, especially considering we're so invested in
and
housing.
what are the Liberals going to do? They're just going to keep printing. And so what does that do to the dollar, the Canadian dollar? It's just going to be the Canadian peso. We're going to have to change the name. There's no other solution. It's not Canadian peso, guys.
Canadian peso. Yeah, I know. Well, I already call it, I'm a big traveler, right? A big flyer. And my loyalties with Delta. Yeah. Right? And they have something called the Sky Miles. And they're so worthless that they're called the Sky Pesos exactly for that reason. Fucking horrible. But and you mentioned affordability, right? So right now, the average home is 9.5 times the median income. And that's compared to 5x back in 2000. So in the last 25 years, it's nearly doubled compared to the median income. That is incredibly unaffordable.
Let's talk about youth unemployment coinciding with the details that you're sharing.
Sure.
Toronto is like the economic hub of Canada.
Yeah.
If you are a young Canadian, a lot of them go to Toronto to get better jobs. I know personal friends of mine who have gone to Toronto from Montreal.
There's such a joke to be made about Indians in Toronto right now. I'm not gonna make that joke. Anyways, let's keep going.
And not just Indian friends, but yeah.
Oh well, okay, fine. There's also some Chinese people in Markham, right?
No, but anyways, if you have to earn such an income just to buy a house, what is that like? It just completely demoralizes our youth. Yeah. When youth unemployment is 15%, we're talking about, I think, 18 to 24-year-olds. Is that the statistic?
Youth, yeah, it's under 24.
18 to 24. That's when you're trying to build your life. That's when you're trying to get into your first condo. That's when you're trying to get a reasonable apartment that maybe you could have your first kid with your partner with at some point. Hopefully, you're trying to do that. Maybe by the time you're 27, 28, you're trying to build your life. If you don't have this opportunity of between 18 to 24, that period of your life, that you're not able to buy a house, you're barely able to afford rent, you're staying in mom and dad's basement, like what does that do for our youth? It leaves a very bleak picture for our future. And that's where Canada is right now. And something that it's what invigorates me to be in politics is that I grew up in a country where you come to Canada and you pay a certain level of taxes, but the rest of your dollars are worth a lot. You're buying a house for maybe my parents bought our first house for, I think, $300,000. Yeah. It was a big family in Pierrefonds, actually, not too far from here.
Way to tell everyone now that you're a generational millionaire.
Now it's worth $3 million.
That's basically it, right?
It's worth probably $600,000, $700,000, and like
wild.
Is 18 to 24-year-old trying to like maybe start a family? Like, are you going to buy a single family home? Maybe back in the day you could. Now it's impossible. And even if you succeed, you're going to pay so much taxes before you're able to get into that house. Yeah. You're going to get decimated. There is no hope. And we need reform, complete reform in this country.
Well, the double whammy here is that that's exactly if people, the younger generation, Gen Zs, and even millennials started buying condos because they couldn't afford townhouses or detached houses, right? And then guess which type of real estate right now is tanking the most? Condos. That's been some people.
Kind of a good thing in some ways.
Well, not for the people that bought at the peak.
No,
they're underwater.
Definitely not.
They're underwater right now. That's fucking horrible.
It's horrible for the country. It's horrible for the dollar. But some young people may be able to benefit. We'll see.
So like for example, Toronto and Vancouver, right? The prices are down right now 15% from the 2022 peak. That's a good correction. 15%, yeah, for sure.
In real estate?
Oh yeah, right. And, this also exacerbates the rental crisis because vacancy rates right now across the country are some of the lowest, like roughly 1%, because buyers they stay renting. They can't afford it.
Yeah.
And
our population keeps spiking. They keep bringing in more immigration and they keep more immigrants, and it's just driving the demand up. And so...
And there's clearly a ticking time bomb because mortgage renewals right now, there's $900 billion in loans that are set to renew in 2026 at higher prices. So if you consider already that we have an increase, and that's the thing, like mortgage delinquencies already as it stands are up 56%.
That's a shocking number.
That is high as fuck,
shocking.
Right? So if you consider that, that's mortgage delinquencies. Bankruptcies are up 42% year over year. Okay, that's even worse. And now you're talking about the fact that by next year, $900 billion worth of mortgages are set to renew at a higher rate. Oh, you're going to start seeing some pain.
And those numbers that you're sharing, it's been increasing for several years. This is not the first year we have a spike. It's been going up 10, 15, 20. I'm not going to quote direct numbers here. I don't have it in front of me, but it's been going up significantly for the last 2 or 3 years. It's not just a new trend here.
Yeah. And right now, in terms of inventory, there's 5 months supply of inventory. Compare that again to 2021 at the peak of the market when there was only 1.5 months supply. So again, the supply has increased threefold. The CMHC, which is kind of like the housing authority that oversees properties, are warning that we need 3.5 million more homes by 2030 to fix the crisis. 3.5 million. It's impossible to reach. Furthermore, and that's the thing that's funny, is that you have just a big blame game in the government. Provinces are blaming the federal government for the over immigration, obviously, and the feds are blaming the municipal red tape. Yeah. The problem is this: they're both correct.
They're both the
correct.
enemy.
They're both the enemy. Yeah. Development costs, and Curtis kept fucking ringing this in. Development costs for new builds is upwards of 35%. Yeah. Before, like $1 million property has $350,000 of fucking taxes attached to it. That is ludicrous.
You know who we thank for that, right? Justin Trudeau, who increased the size of the federal bureaucracy by I think around 40%.
That's a big one.
You know, you have you have this massive public sector, this massive bureaucracy that needs to be fed, and a lot of it's not accomplishing much. Like, let's be real here. Our tax dollars are not being well spent.
No.
And we just have bloated bureaucracies. We have departments that are doing absolutely nothing. We need our own Doge. Canada needs a Doge. And I would love to just abolish half the bureaucracy overnight. Just, you lost your job, go work in the private sector like real adults, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That sounds harsh, and a lot of people are going to hate that I said that, but like, I don't like work in the private sector like adults. That's how I feel.
Do you know how many, so do you know the proportion? I know the number for Quebec, not so much for federal government, but in Quebec, the ratio of private sector to government employees. Do you have an idea of what we're looking at?
No, tell me.
It's roughly 20% of the workforce in Quebec is employed by the public sector. Yeah. 1 out of 5 employees.
I'm not even surprised.
Do you understand how fucking but even 20%? Do you understand how high of a number that is?
It's astronomical.
That is insane.
1 out of every 5 people
works for the fucking public sector, for the government, is a bureaucrat. When I heard it, it blows my mind. You know, one thing I see sometimes with Americans complaining about the unaffordability of housing in the U.S., right? And this cracks me up because I'm like, boys,
just cross that line, cross that invisible line.
Yeah. Come to Canada. You're gonna see. Here's a graph. Okay, it's the Canadian home price decline. It's the Canadian home prices versus the median income. Yeah. Okay, the median income. My bad. And to the left, right here, it's a little bit small. Let me make it bigger. There you go. So right here you have the U.S., and you've seen a correction obviously around the year 2008, as we know, and it dipped below the threshold of the growth of income, if you wish. And today it stands at there's a little bit disparity, right? Home prices have risen a little bit faster than incomes. It's not good. We don't like that. But I mean, hello Canada. Yeah. Look at that graph.
And it's in percentage. If you look at the left. It's a percent.
It's percentage change in inflation-adjusted values.
That's insane.
It is wild. So the Americans that watch the show, this is going to be important. Look at this graph and understand that although this is not good in your country, but you guys are faring, considerably better than us.
Turns out capitalism wins.
Yeah, yeah. A good economy wins. That's what it is.
Exactly.
A good economy wins. I've never understood Americans that like that loathe. And look, the U.S. is not a perfect country, and there's plenty of fucking issues.
Far from it. Yeah.
But I mean, you guys, do you understand how much better you have it in so many ways than the rest of the world?
Just open up an income tax calculator
Yeah.
and just open 2 tabs on your browser and compare Quebec or the rest of Canada, Ontario, because Quebec charges a lot of taxes, but it's not that much more than Ontario. Ontario still taxes you out the wazoo.
For sure.
And so just like open up an income tax calculator one day, compare like Florida,
Yeah.
New York, Florida, Texas.
Texas as
0%
well,
state income tax.
Yep.
New York is high income tax, but still you make a lot of money in New York. And if you make a lot of money in the United States, the tax brackets are so much more friendly.
But that's the thing. That's the
compared
thing
to
people don't
Canada.
realize is that in Canada, I believe, like it depends on the province, but in Quebec, at $126,000, you're at the top tax bracket.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
In the U.S., the top tax bracket doesn't enter until $750,000
$750.
U.S. dollars.
Oh my God.
Keep that in mind because our highest tax bracket, 126,000 Canadian, is roughly like 88,000 U.S. dollars.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the huge difference. In the U.S., and don't get me wrong, anyways, accumulating wealth by being in the U.S. it's called a W-2 employee, so effectively a salaried employee, or here in Canada, getting your T4, it's not the best way to accumulate wealth because, like it or not, you're still taxed. In the U.S., less, you have more money in your pockets, but you're still taxed, right? Ultimately, the real driver of wealth is, well, entrepreneurship.
Absolutely.
That's the way, and the U.S. is considerably more entrepreneurial than Canada.
It's entrepreneur friendly. It's investment friendly. The United States, they want you to invest in the country. Canada does not have that. Canada is like, oh, you want to invest in our country? Here are 35,000 barriers before you're even able to start.
Tell me about it.
And then once you get through those barriers, welcome to taxes.
Yeah.
And
one thing I love to say is that like with a business, and that was the same thing with BizBiz, there was about 1 day a month dedicated for me working for the government for free, for compliance, for taxes, for reports, between the CNESST, Revenu Québec, the CRA. I had some programs to deal with like Innovation Canada, the CNRC. It's all these goddamn fucking government agencies. Ultimately, 12 days a year, 1 day a month, I'm working for free pro bono for the government. And this may be like, what the fuck are you complaining about? But dude, now multiply that with every single entrepreneur, every year, the lack of productivity, the drain it has on the creation of value for the economy is untold. It's crazy, right? So Canada right now, we are having a nice big decline. Maybe this is going to be good. Maybe some people that have capital ready to deploy will deploy it. I don't know.
If you've been saving up money, if you've been holding your cash and investing in assets that have been growing during this time, safe assets, then you're ready to go.
You need some dry powder, to deploy it.
Exactly. You're ready to go.
You're ready to go. All right. So the Canadian Online Harms legislation. This is something that you told me. Do you know a little bit about it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
I'll let you talk about it because like I'm seeing it happen and I have not researched it nearly as much as I should, even though it technically affects all of us. And I think it's probably a huge threat to our democracy if there's much of it left. But I
call it Bill C-11 Part 2. It's just an extension of the same spirit of legislation.
Right. So it basically targets online hate speech and misinformation, right? So us right now.
So specifically, requiring platforms to curb 7 harmful content categories. Non-consensual intimate images, which,
fair.
Child content.
Fair as well. I'm cool
with
that.
Fair enough.
I'm cool with that.
But then it gets worse and worse because they start off with the good stuff,
of course,
and then they sneak in all the insidious stuff. So bullying, which is subjective, which
that's the
I
problem.
think
it's
comes
subjective.
It
becomes subjective. That's
exactly
the issue.
Exactly. It's not the government's position to make the judgment in that situation.
Yeah, it's true.
Self-harm, sure. Hate.
Oh,
hate
God, that's
is so subjective.
Yeah.
Anything can be considered as hate.
I agree.
I could say I don't like that shirt.
Fuck
and
you.
you could say
That's
I
hateful.
hate you for saying that. That's
hateful.
And that's when you realize who in whose hands is the power.
Yeah.
Who is the decision maker behind these
Well, who's the adjudicator? Who's like the all-seeing truth teller? It's when you look at it on social media platforms, right? You have these fact checkers, and it's like they are tasked with, being the adjudicator of truth. But then you realize, and it's leaked, and there's plenty of evidence behind that they are indeed very politically driven and have a bias towards a lot of stuff. And you realize, wait a second, it's being weaponized to push a narrative under the auspice of, well, we're preventing and curbing misinformation. If it's already happening with social media platforms, holy fuck, are we going to see some ridiculous stuff from the government?
Well, we saw it. We saw it in the 2020 era, in the COVID era. We saw misinformation, just things that turned out to be true, just censored from the public during that time when it was such a critical time for people to at least have an open dialogue. I felt as though my main issue with COVID was not so much restrictions, or yes, obviously the restrictions and how heavy-handed a lot of them were and how they violated civil liberties in so many instances. Yes, that was very frustrating, but the main issue was the lack of dialogue around all the other facets of a country that can be at risk, specifically the economy. When they talked about locking down the economy, everyone, like an entrepreneur like you or me, we sit down and we think, you're going to lock down the economy. I'm going to sit at home and do nothing. Our dollar is fucked. Yeah. I'm thinking debt is sky. That's the first thought that came to my mind when they announced lockdowns. I'm saying inflation's going to spike because they're going to print their way out of this. Okay. Inflation's going to spike. Our debt's going to spike because they're going to borrow money and print, and they're not going to, and economic productivity is going to be slashed at the knees. Just cut at the knees. Economic productivity, just none of that. We don't need none of that in Canada. We need to protect you. Yeah. And just the lack of dialogue around things like, maybe, if you look at the chart of the people that passed, and this doesn't bring me joy to talk about this, but it was mostly people above the age of 70 years old. Yeah. And when you take away, when we were talking about youth opportunity, when youth unemployment is at 15% now, when 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, we could have been more fiscally responsible with how we handled COVID. We could have been more responsible with, okay, we're not going to lock down the businesses, but maybe there are certain regulations in place to let people trade, but to do it in a responsible way where we're not spreading out.
So I had a friend from Germany actually, and a couple months ago actually, works close to the government, the military, the DND, the Department of National Defense, and that friend was in Ottawa mostly for military stuff. And I wanted to do a little test. I told him, take out your phone, take Instagram. I'll go take my Instagram, right? Now go on to CBC's page, and I'll go on to CBC's page. And on my friend's phone, obviously, the whole CBC page appears. And on mine, it gives me the whole, under the Canadian government's requirement of blah, 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 this page cannot be displayed. And I'm like, so you want to show the difference between censorship, freedom, and censorship? And that friend was mind blown, the fact that Canadians don't have access on social media to traditional media platforms. You cannot see the news. You cannot spread the news. You cannot share the news on social media platforms. And my issue is always, and it's always going to be about this, it's always done under the auspice of safety, right? Even during the Rona, we're talking about that. It's always about saving people. And it's wholesome and truthfully very hard to attack or to counter. To criticize, because it's like, what kind of person are you? You want to see fucking elderly people die? It's like, no, I don't at all.
But I also don't want to see the economy fall apart.
Well, it's because, and what's fucked up, like right now we're recording, we're inside an insurance company, and insurance companies can value the life of an individual. There is a monetary dollar attached to the life of someone. It's not a fun thing. It's kind of grim to think of it, but life is not, invaluable. Some people say, if it can only save one life. No, not at any cost. I'm sorry to say. And there's plenty of dilemmas, right? There's a train coming down 2 tracks. You can veer it to one side or the other. There's 1 person here and 5 people here. If you veer it to this side, 5 people die. If you veer it here, only 1 person dies. What do you choose? Well, you're going to probably choose killing just 1 person. So you recognize that there's a value to a life, and some lives are worth more. And it's fucked up, but it's kind of the truth. Yeah. Well, when you affect the lives and the livelihood and the mental health and the opportunity and whatever, all the things of a society, growth, a society, millions of people, to save perhaps a marginal amount of people, let's say a handful, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 that are elderly, that lived a normal life, is it worth it? Well, same thing here with online harm. obviously I'm not gonna, we definitely do get a lot of hate sometimes on our videos, and you know what? Cool. I support your freedom to fucking shit on me. Absolutely. I would never dare tell the government, please restrict or infringe on their freedom to shit on my ass.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that because it is your God-given fucking right.
Absolutely.
But to go and to say, you know what, we're going to go protect people from, bullying or hate. It's
first of all, they're not going to be successful at it. Second of all, they're going to use it to their advantage because that's what government does.
Yeah.
And I think people fundamentally just need a thicker skin. Okay, in life, like I'm sorry, like I'm so tired of people being so sensitive about issues and so sensitive to talk about things and so sensitive to get criticism or if you're wrong, just say you're wrong. I'll do better next time. I'll learn and I'll be better. There's no reason to
I feel like men and women are different when it comes to that. All right, I feel like the reality is this, like I grew up playing hockey. Right. Yeah. And like my coaches were very direct. Like, Elliot, you fucking sucked that game. You fucked up this, you fucked up that. Don't do it again. I expect better from you. And I was like, yes, coach. And it's like, I needed that. Right. And us men as well, like between groups of friends, I'm sure you're like that too. My friends, like we'll bust on each other.
Absolutely.
That sounds fucking kinky. Not that way, dudes. But like we'll like keep each other accountable. Like you're getting fat, man. What the fuck?
Yeah.
You've been eating too many taquitos, you motherfucker. Hit the gym.
Absolutely.
We tease each other that way, but it keeps us better, right? But there's 50% of the population that are a little bit more sensitive. I would say not all of them. I'm very careful. I'm putting the white gloves right now. Be careful what I say. But like they do tend to like, they don't take criticism as well, and things have to be a little bit more watered down. But right now we're applying this blanket watered down behavior to everyone. And I think it's building a fat and pudgy society.
When you offend nobody, like if you're not offending anybody, you're not really saying anything of tangible value. If you're not making a clear stance, I think politicians choose to avoid, they essentially dilute their message to something that can be liked by everybody. Yeah. And usually it's just this nice little piece of information that doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
We're going to stand up, elbows up and fight Donald Trump. It's not a real slogan.
No.
It's not it's not a policy platform. It's not ideas. It's not innovation. It's not creativity. It's not, you know what I mean?
But not only that, and that's a very good point. I think that's the biggest issue of most politicians these days is that they will run a campaign on a very set of like promises. Like, for example, we saw it in Germany, like we're gonna reform the immigration, and they get elected on that because they rally a segment of the population behind them. But the second they get into power or into office, now they want to unify the country. They water down their message, pissing off their base that elected them. And at the same time, the people that did not vote for you, they hate you to begin with. You might be able to go get 1 or 2% of them, but you're not going to rally them behind you. They hate you ideologically. And all of a sudden you're left with no one. Everyone fucking hates you. I learned that from my favorite business book in the world. It's called Rework. And in there it says you need to create super fans. And the way you create super fans is by segmenting people. You will, for example, if you're building a product, it's okay to focus on one very good feature. You're going to have a bunch of clients saying, oh, what if you add this? And what if you add that? And you know what? You can't please them all. You say, sorry, won't happen. We are focusing strictly on this. And guess what? The people who are going to love your product for it will provide way more value for you and be like evangelists for you, promote you way more than having a okay product that pleases everyone marginally.
It's essentially what Apple did.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. That's a very good point.
Yeah,
and that's the problem right now. Apple is losing its essence, right? It's not what it used to be. Rest in peace, Jobs. bring you back. So something I want to start bringing now to every episode is a little bit more of a research segment, something we used to do more organically back in the days. But I realized, you know what? There's various topics that are not necessarily in the news cycle, but that people love to learn about. They just don't have the time. People are busy, you're feeding the kids and, trying to pay your tax bill or whatever. So, you know what? This week's research segment is going to be on Canadian healthcare wait times, because that's something I hear all the times from people internationally. Well, in Canada, at least I have free fucking healthcare. At what cost? At what cost? So is free healthcare a myth when delays kill? You know, and that's my tagline today, you know?
Is free healthcare free when you pay 30%, 40% of your income in taxes for a system that doesn't even function as intended?
That's a good way to look at it, you know? Canada's healthcare wait times are amongst the longest in the
It's
developed
horrible.
world, with staggering disparities, by the way, between provinces and far worse delays than most OECD countries. So I got some facts and figures here, and researching this it made me depressed, even more so that my own mother was confronted this year to the gross negligence of our healthcare system. She had 2 TIAs, transient ischemic attack, also known as mini strokes. Eventually discovered that one of her carotid artery was fully occluded and the other one was like 80% occluded. She was a walking time bomb before a big stroke would kill her. It took 6 fucking months until she was scheduled for surgery. 6 months, right? So for me, watching it happen personally in my life, you know, you read stories online, you're like, but this, it fucking got me good. So this is why I want to talk about this. So this is mostly actually for Americans, friends, because down south, you look at politicians, just like, we need to have healthcare like Canada. Bernie Sanders, that fucking, that walking freaking communist corpse.
Trust me, Americans, you don't want that.
Yeah, you don't want that shit, right? So provincial wait time for specialists. So in 2024, nationally, the average wait time to see a GP, or general practitioner, from referral to specialist hit a record 30 weeks. So from your referral to a specialist, it takes on average 30 weeks. And this, it doesn't mean much to the average person, so take it from the expert. It is more than 3x what physicians consider medically reasonable. So it is, at this point, could be considered medical malpractice to make people wait this long to see a specialist. And okay, so let's set like a benchmark. Has it always been that way? No. It's up 195% since 1993. 195%. And this dawned on me as well. Like, this is all personal experience here. When my son was born, a little bit over 2 years ago, I remember being at the hospital and he was born and the news spread in the family and I got a phone call from my grandmother. And she called me, congratulations, and she asked me, so like, how long is the mother going to stay at the hospital? Like, oh, they're going to discharge her like tomorrow. And she's like, so soon? I was like, well, yeah, Granny, like, that's very normal. It's like 24 hours tops. She's like, oh, back in my day, we'd stay for a week. And this is, it fucking blew my mind. You know, my own grandmother had better medical services than we do today. And I bet you they didn't pay nearly as much for it.
You know, the whole Canada's broken thing. Yeah. That's a great example of it, right? Where the basic services that we considered a pillar of our society are just crumbling before us. Yeah. And you know, the liberal, like this falls, what you're describing, this wait time actually falls on the liberal voters who voted liberal this past election, because the conservatives, Pierre Poilievre, actually had a great policy proposal. And this was one of my big reasons that I was a big Pierre Poilievre supporter. But he had a fantastic healthcare platform with specifically implementing a blue seal approval process where immigrants, we have so much immigration, right? We want responsible immigration, and we want people that are in jobs that we need them to be, which in our situation is healthcare. I would love more healthcare immigrants, actually, healthcare practitioners. For sure. International doctors, you know, doctors from India, doctors from all these countries. Like, people hate on Well, you know what?
It's always your cousins.
People are hating on India these days, but India makes fantastic doctors.
I agree with
culture,
you.
People are extremely hardworking. You know,
I agree with you.
The Indian culture, when I grew up, I am Indian. I am Sikh. I grew up as a Sikh boy in Montreal. I wore a turban pretty much my entire life.
I had no idea about that. Really?
Yeah, you knew me back in the day.
Well, that's why. But
anyways, you know, there was a lot of pride around Indian culture back in the day, because the people that moved here were very respectful of the life of the Canadian life, the American life, the European life. You know, that first wave of immigration that, you know, my dad came here about 40 years ago, something like that. He came in the 80s. So he learned French, got his job, worked his way up, and became a productive, tax-paying, valuable member of society. Didn't commit crimes. Wasn't involved in car thefts in Toronto. Wasn't, you know, and Indians built a reputation. The Sikh community had a lot of pride around it. That's why it's such a major voting demographic in Canada now.
Yeah.
It's because we really built our reputation around being hardworking, honest, sincere people that are here to really bring a better country and be part of something that we improve. And this, there's Hindus, Muslims, like a lot of immigrants that just came in, Greeks, Italians.
Yeah.
They came to Canada. They're like, we're going to work hard. We're going to be part of this society, and we're going to live with dignity. We don't have that right now with the we've opened the floodgates to immigration in a way where we are bringing in people who do not share these values, who do not value the peace and sanctity of Canada, who want to come here and exploit it because they have no opportunities back home, and they don't want to work hard and get a job. They want to come and steal your car and sell it for 10 grand and say, I made 10 grand stealing your car.
Well, the immigration system used to be a points-based system, right? So it was a merit-based system. And I think Canada had hit it, to be quite frank, most countries actually looked up to Canada's immigration system. And I think it was run good. Immigration was never the issue because it was skillful immigration. It was quality immigration. It was people that wanted to be Canadian. And I welcome these people with open arms. Our society is better for it. What I don't welcome is mass immigration of people that ghettoize themselves, effectively settle in ghettos, stick together, don't learn the local culture, demand a thing from their host country, and behave like belligerent, well, in most cases, a lot of them criminals,
Absolutely.
That's the issue. But immigration is, for example, your family. You're a testament to the kind of immigration that works in Canada, and that Canada is better for, by the way. We're all better for having your family in here. So, I completely agree with you. I got some more facts and figures here about the healthcare, however, okay, just to compare again in the rest of the world. So in Canada, 61% of people wait more than a month to see specialists, right? We've already discussed this, but what is it compared to other countries? So in Sweden, it's 52%. It's pretty fucking high still, but better. Switzerland, 23% of people wait more than a month for specialist care. Okay, that's pretty good. The Netherlands, 25%. So, I mean, we're falling way behind. Now, that's for specialists. Let's look at ER, because we always talk about the emergency room, the ER wait times, right? The average in Canada ER wait time is 5 hours and 23 fucking minutes. Compare that to Switzerland, which is 1.2 hours. So that's what? That's like an hour and 15 minutes. We're 5 times Switzerland, all right? 5 fucking times.
Dude, forget Switzerland. Go to Asia.
Yeah, that's even crazier.
Go to Asia, go to Dubai, go to these countries. They have a private healthcare system. You go there, the doctor's available in about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay, he sees you, he'll treat you, he'll give you what you need, he'll prescribe you whatever you need.
And he won't treat you like a fucking number either, right?
You're in and out of the hospital in maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours for general things. I'm not talking about serious issues here.
Yeah.
And your bill is maybe like $80, $90.
Yeah, it's not as like the problem. The expensive thing in the U.S. is mostly the constant war between insurance companies and the medical providers, right? Okay, medium wait for a hip replacement in Canada, it takes on average 105 days for a hip replacement. In the UK, it's 92 days. In Germany, fucking 25 days. It's basically like next week. All right, yeah. Now, some things that also blew my mind, okay? So, for example, this stupid, but like PEI, the entire province of PEI, mind you, it's a small province, but it has 3 MRI machines for an entire population of nearly 200,000 people. 3 MRI machines, that's it, And by the way...
Your tax dollars at work.
Yeah. And this is something we're gonna talk about right after, because you'll see that figure. Now, let's look at doctors per 1,000 people. In Canada, we have 2.8 doctors per 1,000 people. The OECD average is 3.7. Okay, so we're lagging behind once again.
And significantly, that's 33%.
That's 33% under doctored, under medical
under OECD
staff.
standards.
Yeah, staff. In terms of beds now, so hospital beds per 1,000 people, Canada, we're 2.5. Compare that to Germany at 8. 8. Not like 3, not 3.3,
No.
8. All right. Now, and this is where, and we hear this time and time again, right? Well, you need more taxes because we need to invest more in healthcare. This is not an investment fucking issue, because here's the percentage of GDP spent on healthcare compared to other OECD country. In Canada, we spend 11.6% of our GDP on healthcare. and the OECD average is 9.2. So we have worse outcomes for more money. That's the fucking problem. This has never been a money issue like the liberal government claims, and like the left tends to claim that. It's a money issue. We need to tax the rich because we need more money for healthcare. It ain't about money. We collect more money already and spend more than other peer nations. It's a management issue. It's always been a fucking management issue.
It's not a money issue. In Canada, what we have is a too much public money issue.
Yeah, and it causes, and bureaucracy as you know it just causes this. So you run a business, right? You told me you run a business, an entrepreneur. So am I. And one thing I've noticed is that throwing more manpower at a problem does not make it get solved faster. It's like the meetings paradox. The more people in a meeting, the less productive it is, right? Well, now imagine entire departments of tens of thousands of staffs
of useless bureaucrats
that are unionized, and as such they never fear being fired to begin with, right? And it's the whole thing of like, it's like the bystander effect. I liken it to the bystander effect. It's the effect of like, if you're in public and you're injured or need help, the more people are around you, the less likely someone is to actually stop and help you, right? Because everyone assumes, well, someone else is going to do it, you know? It's like, I've seen that too. Like one day I was driving and I came across a car crash, like a fucking wreck. And I thought to myself, I'm sure someone called 911 already. But I stopped myself, like, you know what, just in case I'll call. So I called 911 to report it. I'm like, I'm sure you guys have gotten plenty of reports. Like, no, you're the first call. And I was like, holy fuck. It's like rush hour on top of that. Nobody stopped to call 911. The cars were wrecked. Like clearly there were injuries. You know what I mean? That's the bystander effect. Well, imagine that in departments. You're like, okay, well, this needs to be done. This work needs to be accomplished. Someone else is going to do it.
Yeah, a lot of people that I know that work in the public sector always tell me this number. They're like 20% of people are doing 80% of the work.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what everyone tells me. Like, not everyone. That's what a lot of people who've worked in these in public circles, in public sector rather, have told me this.
Yeah.
And not just one person, but like 2, 3, 4 people. And they're like, yeah. And everyone you share this number to, just next time you run into a public sector worker, ask them this. Do 20% of people do 80% of the work where you work? And most of them will say like, yeah. That's
absolutely. Absolutely. But another thing too, and I've realized that the difference between Canada and the US a lot is the speed of execution. And that's something I've worked on a lot for myself. I used to be the Canadian mentality, and I'm sure it's like that in bureaucracy as well. But it's just like, okay, this needs to be done. It can be done by next week. Yeah. Then I started dealing with Americans. I started working with Americans. And it's like,
this needs to be yesterday.
Oh,
everything
yeah.
needs
exactly.
to be done yesterday. I love it.
So now that's the same thing. I'm just like, okay, can this be done or like even meetings, like, okay, when would you be free to talk about this? Back in the day, I'd be like, we can schedule something for next week. Now I'm like, how about tomorrow?
Right,
or even I've done this sometimes. Listen in the morning, and it's like, okay, how about tonight, right? Or I'll be like, tomorrow, let's schedule a meeting. Like, what can we do now? Like, increase the speed of execution, and things go way the fuck up. And this is one thing with Eric right there. You know, it's like, okay, let's. I love this. When we were on the phone last week, you're like, okay, let's fucking shoot some episodes. Let's go now. You know, let's not wait. I love that shit. You know, that's exactly the mentality to have. And I'll end on the segment for healthcare. I personally had an experience with the American healthcare system, and I used to be, just like every Canadian, scared shitless of going bankrupt. So I used to live in Florida. I lived for 2 years in Florida. And one day I was at a gym and I busted my shoulder. Like, I'm like, this really sucks. And I was on a plan. I had a GP over there, or in the US, they call it a PCP, primary care physician. It's like a GP for us. And I was paying that GP $150 a month for unlimited. It's like a subscription service, right? For unlimited visits, unlimited access. So for me, $150, that's not the end of the world. So it was the morning. I called the doctor in the afternoon and said, hey, I busted my shoulder. I'd like to book an appointment. And again, in my Canadian mentality, I'm like, this is like my family doctor, so I'm going to get an appointment in 2, maybe 3 weeks. And she's like, cool, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., you free? I was like, yeah. She's like, good, come in. I was like, well, this is fast. So I go in the next day, and I sit in her office, and I'm there, I'm like, okay, so my shoulder's busted. I did this, that, like fucking rambling through it. She stopped me. She's like, hey, slow down. Like, first of all, what's your family history? Mother, father, diseases, what do you eat? What do you do in terms of activity? Any surgeries before, any medication? She took her time. The entire thing was an hour long. I was like, oh my God, is this what being a human feels like? Being treated with dignity? Then She examines me and obviously says, okay, well, we're going to have to send you to imaging because I need to see inside the shoulder, see if there's anything torn. So I'll write a script, send it off to the imaging company. They'll call you to book an appointment. So I'm like, good. All right, get in my car, start driving back home. 5 minutes later, my phone rings. Hello, this is Boys Imaging Center. Am I talking to Elliot? Yeah, speaking. Yeah, so we'd like to book an appointment. I'm like, okay, sure. I'm like, yeah, by all means, when are you available? What's the soonest you could see me? Again, expecting a couple weeks. They're like, how about tonight, 9 p.m.? My reaction was, you guys are open that late? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, sorry, again, I'm used to things closing at like 5 p.m. here. I'm like, okay, I'll come tonight. And then, of course, the question, so who are you insured with? And I said, oh, I'm not insured with anyone. I'm going to pay out of pocket. And I was bracing myself. I was like, it's roughly going to be $2,000 or $3,000 US. They're like, okay, so we do have to let you know in advance. There's going to be a charge of $325. I was like, that's it. I was like, okay, you sure it's an MRI you're doing? You know, it's not like a. Anyways, I went in. The nicest, sweetest staff took their time, got it done. The next morning I wake up, the results had been sent to my primary care physician, and she had reached out to me already to say, look, this is what we found, here's what you need to do. So within 24 hours and for $325, I saw a doctor, was referred for imaging, got the imaging done, and the results in. So I'm going nuts, dude. I'm like, this is insane. I'm going to need to tell everyone. I take my phone, I call my mom, like, Mama, you won't believe what the fuck happened. And I tell her everything. She's like, this is interesting because she had a friend who also needed a non-emergency MRI done. And instead of going to the public, because there was a 6 months wait in the public sector back home in Quebec, that friend decided to go to the private. It still took 3 weeks to schedule everything and ended up costing that friend $1,200 fucking dollars in Canada. So it was more expensive. So all that to say, it's not that much more fucking expensive in the US when you do it well, you know? The problem is that, and here's the hack, you go for the uninsured price. And this is what I discovered later on doing some research. There's 2 price lists, insured and uninsured. And medical providers gives you this retarded $20,000 for an MRI when you're insured because they know the insurance company are going to call and fucking haggle and whatnot. But if you say I'm going to pay out of pocket, they give you the real price, the normal price, the price that you can afford. So that's the trick for the American friends. If you have insurance, don't disclose your insurance. Sometimes it's nearly the same price paying outright out of pocket than it is to do your copay on your insurance plan. Okay, wow. Which is insane. So that's all I wanted to say regarding Kane Healthcare. Any other topic you want to talk about, or like tantalizing you that
and I think one of your really viral videos was on this, like taxes.
Yeah, people fucking love taxes. And people go like nuts for taxes.
You pay like income tax, you pay sales tax, then you pay property tax, you pay like car insurance, you pay your registration for your car, you pay for your electricity, which is publicly owned in Quebec, you know?
Yep.
So true. You dump all your money into taxes.
Except for Sherbrooke.
Okay. And despite paying all these taxes provincially and federally, despite having such a big tax base, they still run deficits and print money endlessly. Yeah. Like, it's one thing to be in the United States and to take like charge a lot less tax and then print and spend endlessly. But it's another thing to like take 30 to 40% of someone's livelihood and their lives and then tell them, oh yeah, we're also printing and deficit spending and destroying the value of whatever we already took like almost half of.
Yeah, because people don't realize that, by the way, is that money printing is a tax, right? Yeah. And it's super insidious because it doesn't need budgetary approval by Parliament, for example. It's not part of the budget. And people don't see it on like a tax bill, like coming out of their pocket, right? Instead, it just devalues everyone's money equally. Actually, it hits the middle class and the poor people so much more.
It affects them more drastically.
Because if you're an asset owner and inflation happens, you don't care. You're protected. Your assets are going up as well. Your net worth is increasing. It doesn't really affect you. Actually, you kind of like inflation, if anything. But if you're the middle class that mostly only have a home, if that nowadays, or working class people that have very little in terms of asset aside from like a few savings, but they don't even own stocks or equities or bonds or whatever, then they're just being decimated. They're just being fucking killed by inflation. And nobody realizes that. And it's sad to say, because I don't think it's a complicated economic principle, but the average person does not care or know enough about the economy to even realize how much inflation robs them.
Replace the word person with Canadian.
Yeah.
That's why the Liberals won the election.
Well, you know what? Insanity is doing something for a decade. and it failing and then saying, may as well try another 4 years. Why not? I think this is a great place to end it. Samar, I really do appreciate you coming on today.
I appreciate being here.
And we'll have to do this again.
Absolutely.
Good. And for everyone back home, we just launched a Patreon. I'd be appreciated if you guys gave it a little. It's $8 a month, I think. We put it at. It's ridiculous. It's like a Starbucks coffee, but it helps us with
Justin Trudeau's
after. There you go. It helps us with the costs of producing these episodes. They may not seem like much, but it is incredibly expensive, just like everything else in Canada. So much appreciated, guys, and tune in next week. Thank you very much.